As protectionism and global trade tensions rise, countries such as Malaysia are pushed to rethink their economic playbooks. AWANI international correspondent Fei Kwan reports from PRAXIS 2025 on the call to build trust alongside trade routes.
Thanks, Hafiz. I'm here at PRAXIS 2025 here in Hilton, Kuala Lumpur, where this year's theme, From Fracture to Future, calls for renewed cooperation in an increasingly volatile world. Now, rising protectionism is, of course, creating major headwinds for Malaysia as trade, climate, and even connectivity come under pressure. So, to unpack what this means for Malaysia and the region, I'm joined by Datin Lorela Chia. She is the founding president of the Malaysia Association of Sustainable Supply Chains. As of late in Malaysia, we've heard a lot about the need to diversify our markets and to reduce reliance on traditional trade partners. So in the face of rising protectionism and supply chains now under pressure, what do you think? Have we as a country actually done enough? And where do you see the biggest opportunities for deeper cooperation moving forward?
I think first, true to the theme, I think we should not look at things in a fragmented way, right? So we used to say break down silos, right? So that's actually what it is. Number one is to stop looking at things from piecemeal perspective. That's still a fragmented lens. If you're wearing a fragmented lens, the solution you have would be fragmented, right? And that's not really future-proofing. I think right now, what we can look at is what I would like to call a trust infrastructure, right? It's, well, to put it very simply, I think in times of difficulty or uncertainty, who do you want to trade with? Who do you want to deal with? These are people you trust, right? So relationship building and trust building. What does this mean in a practical sense? I think when you talk about infrastructure, people think about airports and roads and ports and all that. But what the other things? The credibility of our data, the reliability of certifications, because ESG is how countries and sectors evaluate things, right? The transparency of our supply chains, these all build trust, and collectively they form a trust infrastructure. And one would say that if your trust infrastructure is strong enough and reliable enough, and people buy into that, then it's easier for you to move things, it's easier for you to negotiate things, it's easier for you to look for new markets, it's easier for you to innovate, it's easier for you to find partnerships. So in that sense, are we doing enough there? I think that should be the question. Yeah,
looking further ahead at these long-term steps. And I do wonder though, because as mentioned in your session earlier, that we can't expect things to immediately bounce back even after US President Donald Trump's second term comes to an end. And in that sense, you know, when we're looking at the bigger ecosystem, it's important for Malaysia to kind of prioritize reforms to ensure that we're not just adapting to the shifting global order and the new generation trading order, but rather being part of it and helping to reshape it. Yes. So I wonder where that trust infrastructure comes into play then, especially with a landscape that's always like dominated by major powers.
That's an interesting question. You see, when we talk about adapting, we're responding. So when we respond, it's like the narrative about ESG, right? Beginning with compliance. So when we talk about adapting, we are still talking about what we need to do and how we adapt to that. That's compliance, right? Then for individuals or even businesses, we need to move from compliance, being forced to do something, into ownership, putting our personal values into it as individuals, and for companies looking at it, how does this generate competitive advantage, right? But for individuals to mature, we really need to move towards stewardship. So beyond embedding my personal values into what I believe in or what I'm doing, I need to look into how I'm nurturing the other people, the people around me, my ecosystem, right? For businesses, this means how do I look at what was a compliance, which is now a competitive advantage? How do I use that as a launchpad for innovation? Right. And this entire string, right? Trust infrastructure is about the credibility of your data, it's about the credibility of certification. So it's everywhere at every stage. It's also a mindset, it's also a behavior change. Once you have that, I think it's easier to look at how we can lead as opposed to follow.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you so much, Datin, for sharing your insights. That was Datin Lorela Chia from the Malaysia Association of Sustainable Supply Chains. I'm Faye Kwan, reporting here from PRAXIS 2025. Back to you in the studio.